Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
It's Dave Kennedy, or Hacking Dave, from the Hacking Your Health podcast. Just want to say, if you enjoy what we're doing here, what you're listening to, please share us. We're all over Instagram, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Check us out at HTTPS wehack.health, as well as our Discord server, which is discord.gg/wehackhealth. Pretty much everything is wehackhealth. But thanks again for all the support, all of the stories that you're sharing. Share your successes, your struggles. That's what this community is here is for. That's why we do this podcast, and your energy supports us. So thank you so much, and hope you enjoy the podcast.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And we both have got funny voices today.
We do. Yeah. It's
we can't even say that I got it off you, you got it off me. Like, you're halfway across the world, so we can't blame each other. Maybe just like synced. We're synced sickness going on. Anyway,
yeah, so
what's going on, man?
My voice today, I am in the process of having an upper respiratory cold that I thought I had escaped. So, I went to I was in Vegas last week, and my kids got sick. Like, every single kid. It's been like a month and a half of sickness in our house. So, like, my one son gets sick, then my other son, like, 2 weeks later, gets sick, then my daughter gets sick, and then, like, 3 days before we leave for Vegas, Aaron gets sick. I'm like, oh god. And I'm going to Vegas to speak in front of a lot of people, and it's a really important speaking engagement, and it's like a huge audience. And the day that I have to speak, I start to feel sick, and I'm like, oh no, not now, not like, out of all the times this could have happened, like, I escaped
out
it
of
for
all
like
the days
2 months
in the whole year.
Yeah, like I just need to get through this. So, like, I put myself full of some Theraflu and some other stuff, and I was able to get there. And like, once my adrenaline kicked in, I rocked it. Luckily I hadn't actually gotten sick yet. I was just at the beginning stages. You start to feel like icky, and you're like, oh, I don't feel great. And then from there, like, the rest of my trip in Vegas, I was just feeling sick. But like, today is probably the worst I feel. So I apologize for my voice on the podcast. You're going to get soothing, raspy Dave sickness voice today. So
it's like low and slow beats. We're like on the midnight train.
Yeah, for sure.
But Vegas was good.
Yeah, it was great.
You still got all your lifts in?
I got all my lifts in except for Saturday when I had to fly out. And I also was feeling like really horrible Saturday. So I did not lift on Saturday, but I did lift on Sunday. So to recoup. So Sunday's usually my rest day, got my legs in. And it's funny because I texted Ben and I'm like, man, this was the worst legs day I think I've ever lifted in my life. And then today I can barely walk. So I must have did something good because my glutes and hammies and quads are screaming at me that they hate life right now. So it must have been a good workout. But no, I got my listing. It was a beautiful gym. We stayed at the Cosmo. And that's my new favorite hotel. Like, I stayed at a lot of hotels like Caesars and Aria, and by far Cosmo, my favorite hotel. Just really good service. Everything's easily accessible. Lots of food options. Like, if you don't do a reservation, they have like this really awesome food court that you can go to. It has a lot of different options for food. That is, even the lines, if they're long, it moves so quick. Like, we must have waited. It was like breakfast time, peak breakfast time. Vegas, by the way, was jam packed. There was a combination of like a football college game that was going on, a huge one. And then also so you're familiar with the Super Bowl, right?
Yes, I know the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was the rodeo equivalent of the Super Bowl was in Vegas that weekend.
Okay.
So there was cowboy hats and cowboy boots and like cowboy everything everywhere you went. It was the most amount of cowboy that I have ever experienced in my entire life. And Aaron and I were like, she made this joke about we should start a drinking game for every cowboy hat we saw. And I'm like, Aaron, you realize that we've seen 30 since you just said that? We'd be dead.
so hammered.
Yeah. So it was a lot of cowboys, but it was a great time. We went to a really cool show called Opium, which is from the producers that did Absinthe over there. Really cool night shows, and funny things. But it was a good time. Had a great time, and I got my lifts in. The Cosmo gym is beautiful. Had a really good time with that gym. So a lot of
a regular hotel fitness suite by the
no, it's huge
by any stretch of imagination.
Yeah, I had a great time there, and they went all the way up to 80-pound dumbbells, and I did 80-pound seated overhead press for 10 with 80 pounds. So I was really impressed with that. So I'm going to try 100 on Thursday.
That's so weird. I was just doing them earlier on. I did 80 pounds overhead.
That was weird that you did it because I just did 12. But I was going to try the 100 pounds for 12 on Thursday.
Yeah, whatever. I didn't even throw them up. Anyway, but yeah,
how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Everything's good here. Do you know what? I had a bit of I wanted to talk about this. I had a bit of a realization over the weekend that I haven't been 100% dialed into my nutrition, and it's definitely impacting how I feel. And what I mean by that is, like, calories have been fine, macros have probably been a little bit skewed, but the quality of my food hasn't been optimal. Let's say, like, I don't feel like I've been eating anything nutritious, so I've definitely noticed an impact now. I put up my check into James. I just think it was out of convenience thing, and I got into a bad habit over the past couple of weeks, but I definitely felt it over the weekend, and it had started to impact, like, work. It has started to impact training and stuff like that. So I have noticed that I'm going to address that. And the actual real food, like the one meal of the day that I was eating that was real food was probably dinner, and everything else was like just fillers in between. So an observation. We'll see how I get on in the next couple of weeks. But aside from that, everything's good. Yeah. Nothing has really changed.
So what are you doing to address it? What are you doing to address it?
I'm going to eat real food. Well, I'm actually going to you maybe will be surprised to hear this. I'm actually going to do some meal prep. And there's a bit of two reasons that I'm doing this. Number one, so I can actually eat nutrient-dense foods. But number two, to sort of help along.
Are you doing meal prep, or is your mom doing meal prep?
No, I am actually going to do it myself.
Wow. Okay. So
I know. No, I was actually thinking that this morning. I was like, let's get my mom to do it. No, but the reason that I want to do it is to show that this is how I do it, or how I would do it for you guys, or anybody who wants to meal prep, or anybody who struggles with food. And then obviously to create a training around it for the group that I can put then in the mainframe and whatever else. So there is two sort of sides to it in terms of I'll benefit from it. It'd be good to get into the habit of doing it again to sort of see, can I actually still do it? Do I remember how it works, what the process of everything is? And then obviously be able to come up with like recipes that aren't just like boring ass same sort of food. So I actually ordered meal prep containers and they came. I was like, oh shit, right, this is really happening now. I gotta follow through for this. But yeah, aside from that, things are good. I got trained legs earlier on. I've done my cardio, been doing kind of check-ins, got the group call later. Things are good.
Nice. I've been kind of down on Tavala lately. Tavala is this meal prep service that I use that they ship you fresh food, and then you have an oven and you scan the QR code and automatically.
I would just like to say that if I had the option of having Tavala, I would definitely do that over meal prep, but they don't supply.
It's so convenient. They have such good macro breakdowns. You can get like real thin ones that are like 300 calories all the way up to like 800-900 calories, high protein ones, high carb ones, whatever you want to do. But they changed the labeling on them recently to where they used to have the macro breakdowns on the sheet that comes with it. Now you got to like dig into the app. And so like if I'm trying to record on my FitnessPal, I have to like go between two apps to like write them down and put them in and everything. It's just much more time consuming. So I wrote a nasty gram to Bala saying, hey, can you please change this? But not nasty gram. My nasty grams are like, hello, I love your service so much. Would you guys consider turning back to the calendar? Anyways. But I also, since I've been traveling a ton, I haven't been able to eat to meal prep. But what I've been definitely focusing on, especially as I travel when I was in Vegas, Vegas, you can eat whatever you want to in copious amounts of food and everything else.
Whenever you want to, at any time of day.
At any time of day, any time of night. I mean, there was this donut place that was on the second level of Cosmo, and they had like these most amazing looking donuts. I did not have one, but they looked amazing. Like what was interesting is, so I went with the holidays and everything else. I think I was at 231, 232. I weighed in this morning at 228, which is the lowest I've weighed in ever. So I'm hit the 228 mark officially. So we're back kickstarting into this, getting down to the 219 mark.
We have to address. So in Dave's check-in last week, I know that we have sort of had this 220, 219 goal in our heads for a while, but genuinely, like when I looked at your photos, I was like, right, so this is what you're looking at like 231. I was like, 11 or 12 pounds off, this is going to be really fucking lean. I was like, we don't need to push for it. It's just the number or whatever else. But I know you as a person. I know that you want to sort of push for it. But I would say, judging by your photos, how you look, how lean you are, the changes that we're sort of seeing week on week, like if we get to that, you will be absolutely inside out shredded, which I'm excited to see.
It's crazy. This is by far the leanest I've ever been in my entire life, with the ability to have muscle mass put on. So, you start to see, your muscle definitions. And like, it's funny because like Aaron caught me like once or twice, like checking myself out in the mirror, because there's like this mirror there that in the room. And I was just like, because I was like, damn, like I can see all my muscles right now. It's cool, Like
walking past me, like, oh, that's me.
I take a picture of myself real quick. And she's like, are you taking a picture of yourself? I'm like, no. Yeah, yes, I was. But no, it's impressive to be able to shave it in. Although I did meet somebody while I was out there. So at the same time, I wasn't doing the Amazon conference, but there was somebody out there that I met, and so I went and talked to this person. And, she's like super nice person on Twitter. I've never met her in person. Aaron and I were going to go, and Aaron ended up staying at the casino. So I went to go meet her really quick at the MGM. And she comes up to me. She's like, hey, oh, you look a lot smaller in person. I'm like, what? I'm like, damn it. You don't say that. You don't say that to me. She's like, no, you're super tall. But like the pictures you show, like you're like huge. And I'm like, damn it. Okay.
He's like, hold on, I gotta go to the bathroom, do 20 minutes, come back,
push it up. No, but that, I mean, it's good because I've leaned out, quite a bit, and but it was funny because I was at the craps table, and the guy kept calling me. Well, first of all, he's like, don't whatever this guy says goes, because he's built like a fucking tank. And then he's like, we're just going to call you Thor. So they kept calling me Thor the rest of the time on the table. I was like, okay, I'll take this. This is cool. Like
that's you at the table for 36 hours straight.
Yeah. I'm not leaving. I got mortgaged my house and everything. I lost all my money, but they kept calling me Thor. So it was well worth it.
It was worth it.
I will say I hate gambling. I just, Erin enjoys the slot machines. And so like I entertain it just so she's happy with it, but I hate gambling. I can't stand losing my money. So
I've never been to Vegas, so I mean that's something that we'll have to address. But anyway, so you weighed in this morning at 228.
Yeah, it's the lowest I've ever been. Well, I mean, I've been lower than this before, but it's the lowest I've been in this whole process. And it's really interesting. You take a look at my pictures when I first started. What was I at when I first started? Like 210, 210.
Oh, 210. Yeah,
210. I mean, the difference between 210 right now and 228 or 230 is absolutely ridiculous. Like it's not even the same person. So, a lot of work and effort, but it's been a lot of fun, and obviously the results are shown because of it. Check the pictures.
Yeah. I probably by the power of it, then anybody who watches on YouTube, I'll put them on. Oh, that's photos of me. How'd I end up there?
It's photos of you in my drive. What?
Yeah, anyways, you asked for them.
Oh, okay.
That's a whole other conversation. Maybe we're letting too much information out for everybody's listening.
No, but it's been a good journey with the whole thing. I mean, weight wise, I've just continued to, when I was in Vegas, counting calories is obviously a very difficult thing to do. So I stuck with, protein first as kind of a rule. And I just focused on eating, decently healthy things. I didn't, splurge on desserts and things like that. I didn't drink a lot of high carb drinks. I kind of just stuck with the same rules and principles. And, it's funny because you're so busy while you're there, you don't eat as much. So I actually had to supplement with protein shakes and, protein bars. And I was getting an insane amount of steps. I think in one day I had 27,000 steps. So, all of that obviously combines to what you're doing. And I was still hitting the gym every morning, and it was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
Good. I'm just laughing here. Like the different, I don't know if you have these photos in front of you, but the difference in your initial photos and these photos is absolutely insane. I actually pulled up your week one check-in sheet. The first day that you checked in, or the first day you recorded your weight, you were 210.3 and you were 215 by the end of the week. And I remember you were like, things are not going in the direction that I thought they were going to go. But if you think 210, day one, I guess that was the 10th of September, 2020. And then where you're at now is 228, which is 18 points difference, but entirely different person. Is absolutely ridiculous.
It's crazy. I'm looking at them both right now, and it's just I mean, my gosh, it's crazy. It's
absolutely insane. But anyway, we're still on track for 219 then. we're still sticking with it. We're going for it.
I'm sticking with it. I'm going for it, man.
Okay.
I mean, the issue we run into is like, it's obviously December 5th right now. So we're recording this podcast a little late. But I got some days I got to get in quick before I get to the holiday time frames.
But we can still, that's part of the story. We can navigate it with the holidays. It might just extend it a little bit.
Yep. I agree.
Okay. Cool. Right. So today we want to talk about recovery, essentially. Well, I had a bit of a thought. Well, okay, a bit further into it. Last week on the call with the Hacks group, they were asking me about heart rate variability, what the fuck it is, and how the fuck do you improve it, essentially. So we had a bit of conversation about that. And I think that, number one, I'll record a training video on it for everybody so that they can have a look at it within both groups. But I think there was a little bit of me that was a little bit smug whenever I pulled this up. And I went straight to the website because the way that it was put across on the podcast with Stephen Bartlett and the guy who's the founder and CEO of Whoop, the way he described it and how they use it and the importance of it, I really resonated with. So I was like, right, I'll go onto their website and I'll pull up sort of ways that or things that you can do to improve it. And I ended up down a bit of a rabbit hole and whatever else. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about other recovery things like you do for sauna, cold water therapy, things like that we can talk about. Sound fair?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Cool. So essentially, heart rate variability, what is it? So heart rate variability is, I'm just going to read the definition from here rather than me trying to bastardize it because I did this the last time. Heart rate variability is the physiological phenomenon of variation in the time interval between heartbeats. So basically the difference in time between your heartbeats. Yeah?
Yeah, no, but the reason why it works is actually kind of interesting. It has to do with our central nervous system, and there's basically two parts of our central nervous system that acts and fires. And when we're not recovered well, our central nervous system essentially sends signals to, our heart in one way or the other. Are we recovered or not? And so what a lot of the science has found is that HRV is a good baseline to understand whether or not you are recovered or not from a specific event, whether that's, it could be stress, it could be drinking, it could be workout routines. And that's why, HRV is such an important kind of baseline for us to see whether or not in heart rate variability, is such a baseline for us so that it allows us to understand, hey, is our body undergoing some significant stress right now that we're not aware of? Is there something wrong? Or, are we not recovering properly from our workouts? And if everything stays consistent, we're not drinking, we're eating, proper nutrients, we're getting decent sleep, that baseline allows us to say, hey, how well we recovered from a training perspective to go and, hit the ground running as hard as we can, or does our body need some more time to actually relax? And I use HRV very consistently to understand how things are going. If there's something wrong, like I think I sent to Ben last week, I'm like, I know I'm in Vegas because I had like a 7% recovery. Time zone changes impact me drastically from an HRV perspective. I wasn't even drinking, I just because of the time zone changes, lack of, formalized sleep that day. I think I must have woken up 50 times that night because I was in a new place, different time zone. I couldn't sleep well. And so my HRV was just absolutely destroyed. So, it's a good baseline and metric for how you're doing. But I also say too, trust your gut as well. There are times where my HRV is reporting, that I'm not recovered and I feel amazing and I PR, right? So, it's another data set I think to use, but it's an important one to see how you can tune things in your life to make things better for your recovery, your gains, how you're doing, in general, and how you're feeling. HRV is a really powerful tool for that.
Yeah, I will say that I don't like when you're in Vegas because the time difference is it just doesn't work for our relationship.
I would text you at like 3 o'clock and you're already like a bed. I'm like, dude, what the hell? I don't get to talk to you for the rest of the day. It sucks.
Exactly. And I'm like, wait, and I'm like, fuck, it's like 1 p.m. Like, it hasn't read my message yet. What the fuck? Anyway, so HRV essentially, a good reading of HRV basically shows how quickly our body can switch between those two modes essentially for your nervous system. So it's parasympathetic and sympathetic. So you probably heard it before as rest and digest. That's the parasympathetic one. The sympathetic one is the fight or flight. So essentially, if you're being chased by a bear, sympathetic mode. If you're like chill night, watching a movie that's chill, you want to be in that rest and digest state, essentially. The number, this is a funny one because, and this is something that I only have actually realized recently because I would have always thought that the higher the number, the better, which in a sense, yes, it is. You want to make it higher, or the goal is to improve it or increase it. But because there's so many variables in it, and because there's so many things to take into consideration, the range is so vast. So there isn't essentially a good range to be in. It's so person dependent. So I will have clients that are like, 20 to 30, and I will have clients that are like 170 to 180.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I look for is the differences and the changes in it, rather than looking for massive increases in it like week on week. So that's something that I have sort of changed my view on, or changed how I look at things. And there's times that you've done your check-in and we've used HRV to sort of say, is there something going, like, are you stressed? And like, oh yeah, I have this massive shit show going on that I'm trying to deal with, or whatever. And I have done it time and time again with other clients. So it is a good marker of that. But essentially the question was, and how the conversation came about, is how can you improve it?
Yeah.
And as I said, I went on this website and there was a little bit smug. But I'm going to read through the list, and I think we can probably expand on each point. Maybe I should send you this. Would that work? I'll expand on each point so that we can actually get some practical tips, rather than actually just me saying them and it being useless. So the reason that I was a little bit smug with it was because these are all things that I look for, or I recommend to do from a coaching client perspective.
Yeah, from an HRV perspective, like, there's a lot of variables, and that the baselining of HRV, I think, is most important for you. That's why whenever you wear Whoop for the first time, or Aura, it's going to baseline what your regular HRV is.
I still don't think mine is calibrated.
But I mean, it does change by age too. So, as you get older, your HRV actually goes down substantially. So you're not, when you're, early age, in your 20s and below, HRV can be, anywhere between, 55 to 105 or something like that. So the HRV is really dependent on age. It's dependent on, your general, heart rate, everything else that goes along with it. So baselining that is really important to kind of get a measurement of what that is. And again, it's the time it takes in between heartbeats, and that's what is determined, between the system that allows you to do it, the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system are the two kind of drivers behind that. So it's kind of interesting because whenever for me, if I drink alcohol the night before, my HRV is destroyed. Like, I know for a fact, if I drink any alcohol, even in low amounts, like, obviously the more I drink, the worse it is. But, I think I had like a 2% recovery one time. But when I drink, it definitely has a major impact on HRV. When I work out, it definitely has a major impact on HRV, especially if I'm doing like weightlifting will definitely. So if I have a normal HRV rate, and and I work out, like let's just say resistance training. I will usually be able to recover fairly quickly from that. So like usually, it's like a normal HRV for me is about 63 to 65 is my normal baseline HRV. If I work out, my HRV will typically drop, and I'm just actually going through stats right now as I go through this. So let's go through what my HRV would have been the day I worked out here, which would have been 45. So I dropped about 20 points on an HRV scale, which is a pretty substantial difference. But my recovery was at 44%, whereas it's usually 90% or above if I'm in the 65% mark. If I do HIIT training though, high intensity interval training with like a lot of cardiovascular, I will notice a substantial reduction in HRV the next day. So there are definitely things that take your body longer to recover from. And you think resistance training would be one of those ones that would be super stressful on your body. And it is in a lot of extent. But things like cardiovascular work and pushing your body through a lot of strain can definitely have a major impact on HRV. But again, everybody's different. For me, alcohol obviously is a big thing. Sleep is another one. If I don't get between 6 to 7 hours of sleep a day, my HRV is definitely impacted by that.
Yeah, I'm actually just going through the data here too, and I'm comparing Whoop to Aura, and it's interesting. So essentially what I'm getting is it's about 7 or 8 points difference on either side. So whenever mine is like slightly down, Aura records it at about 7 points less than Whoop does. But whenever it's elevated, Whoop records it at about 7 points more than Aura does. So it's interesting. It would be interesting to see how they both correlate the data, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, so alcohol is on the list, essentially. I'm just going to go through it. We can have a conversation about each one. Number one is exercise and train appropriately. And essentially this is, whenever I was into that podcast with Will, the founder of Whoop, this is probably what made me order it over everything else. Because the last time I had one, which was about 3 years ago, I was like looking at it being like, yeah, whatever, 14% recovery and going and training anyway. Whereas what I wanted to get an understanding of was what type of training I should do and when. And I wanted to use the data and information to do that essentially. So obviously with Whoop and with HRV, it gives you based on your recovery, your sleep and your HRV. So how you should sort of navigate the next day essentially. So number one is exercise and train appropriately. The second one is good nutrition and at the right times. And I thought that the at the right times thing was interesting. So it's not just about the good nutrition, but it's about sort of regulating that through the day. And this comes down to us, we've spoken about obviously circadian rhythm and sort of your body knowing what to expect throughout the day and getting yourself into that sort of regular eating cycle. Another point to note, and we've probably touched on this a few times before, is not eating too close to bedtime so that you're not disrupting your sleep through digestion. Now I realize that people do struggle with this, and I have to deal with this quite a lot with clients just based on work schedules, when they train, when they eat, when they have to go to bed, when they have to get up and whatever else. But if you can navigate this as best possible in terms of when you eat and sort of regulate that throughout the day. For me, what I tend to look at is if you have full freedom of your day in terms of like when you train, when you eat and things like that, the way that I would do it is I would literally build my nutrition around my training, if that makes sense. So look at when I'm going to train in the day or when's my optimal time to train. My pre and post workout meal essentially are going to be the most important meals throughout the day. And then depending on whatever times around that, when I'll eat throughout the day. So if you can regulate those times throughout the day as best possible, it's going to help improve recovery and it's going to help improve heart rate variability.
I do the same thing for nutrition. I try to keep things, aligned with my training. So I do cardio from a fasted perspective, and I typically will have a pre-workout meal and then go lift and then post-workout meal. So I do plan my nutrition pretty heavily around that as well to help kind of maximize nutrient absorption, muscle recovery, mTOR production, making sure I have a good amount of protein for protein synthesis, that type of stuff.
Cool. The third one is hydrate, and I'm actually reading a bit deeper into this, and this is where I'm going to have to do a bit of like conversion. So essentially it says here, hydrate. Your level of hydration determines the volume of your blood. The more liquid you have in your system, the easier it is for blood to circulate and deliver oxygen and nutrients to your body. Drinking close to an ounce of water per each pound that you weigh is a good daily goal. Now, my general rule of thumb for hydration is if it's a female, I'll generally do like 2 to 3 liters. If it's a male, I'll do 3 to 4 liters. And we can sort of adjust it over time. And I get shit for this all the time, but I would imagine that 1 ounce per pound of body weight is much more than what I'm programming, because I think 3 liters is like 100 fluid ounces or thereabouts. Let me work that out.
And that's definitely one thing that I need to do a better job of is drinking water. I try to get as much in as I possibly can and throughout the day, but I'm definitely lacking in many areas around tracking how much I'm doing. I just drink a lot of water, but I probably could do much better drinking water.
3 liters of water is 101 fluid ounces. So if you're 228 pounds, essentially you should be drinking 6 liters of water, if not more.
That's a lot.
Which is a lot of fucking water. And I know there will be a lot of my clients listening to this being like, I am busting my balls to drink 3 liters or 4 liters or whatever you're recommending. So probably for the majority of them, they're going to have to double that, if not more. So that is an interest. And actually, myself included, I would probably need to drink more. I drink about 4.5 liters per day. So for me, I would need to take that to 6. So again, another way that you can improve it is through hydration. But what's that? The third one? All 3 of these things are things that sort of we obviously look at over time. But that's going to be a lot of water. Everybody's going to be drinking a lot of water. Number 4 is don't drink alcohol. And this is I guess we can have this conversation too, because for me, the alcohol conversation is one that comes up quite a lot. And the sort of place that I'm in at the minute is I don't necessarily think it's worth it. And what I mean by that is the sort of aftermath that it has in how I think, how I feel, how I navigate the next day. And it's not like I'm not a massive hangover person in terms of like, I can't get up or I can't function. I just operate at like 70%. Brain fog, can't really think straight. and that lasts for a couple of days. And to me, I just don't think it's worth it. I'm not saying I'm never going to drink again, but I definitely think that it has to be a situation where I feel like it's worthwhile being involved in the situation. And I actually went out recently. Yeah. I was texting you and I didn't drink. And I managed the night okay. Didn't hate anybody, didn't have to leave early. I managed to actually communicate with people. It was a success.
So, alcohol to me is becoming less and less desirable. I went a long time without, especially when we first started. I went a long time without any alcohol. I think it was like 8 months or 9 months. I didn't touch any alcohol whatsoever. And I felt great, and I started kind of introducing it back again in low quantities. But I used to be really big into, like bourbons and things like that. And since then, I really don't drink much as far as hard liquor. I might have like a seltzer or two or something like that where I can still kind of enjoy drinking with friends, but in a low amount of quantity. But I don't like how I feel now when I'm drinking, or I start to get that, buzz, or starting to feel kind of drunk or things like that. So it's actually relatively rare for me to drink to the point of having some sort of buzz or things like that, because I just don't like how I feel then, as well as how I feel in the morning, especially if I know I need to go training. Who wants to wake up hungover at 6 o'clock in the morning?
And go to Orange Theory? Not me. Nobody.
Not me. Nobody. Nobody wants to do that. And, with my rule set of my discipline around training, I will go work out at 6 a.m. If I drink the whole night. If I was drinking until 4 a.m. and I'm still fucking drunk, I'm going at 6 a.m. and running. Like, I'm not stopping. Like, I'm gonna be there regardless, because of my, because I don't have that type of bone in me. So
if you're drinking the 4 a.m. and you go at 6 a.m., could be the best Orange Theory that you've ever done.
A lot of vomit everywhere or something, but no. But I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I don't prefer to feel that way, obviously. So for me, I just kind of cut out as much of it as possible. When I was in Vegas, I may have had like 3 drinks the entire time I was there. It might have been a dinner with a steak, and there's like a cool looking drink there that had some habanero stuff in it or something like that. I think I had one of it was a habanero or a jalapeno margarita. I think I sent you a picture of it. So there's a couple of those where, I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. But after that, I'm pretty much good, and I'm drinking water or, maybe Diet Coke or something like that to kind of keep it going. But I just kind of cut that out because it really impacted my recovery, how I felt. And you listen to Huberman, alcohol is like one of the worst things possible for our bodies. Like, it's not good at any capacity. There are some early studies that came out that were referenced that, having, you always hear the thing of like having a glass of wine a day is healthy for you, or having 1 glass of alcohol a day is good for you. That's like been completely disproven, like 10 different ways. Alcohol once a day is not good for you in any way, shape, or form. Increases your risk of a lot of different comorbidities. It's just not good for you at all. So why do it?
True. Now, I will caveat this by saying I do enjoy cocktails, and if I am out, I will order a cocktail because I like the process. I like how they're made. I like everything about it, because I used to work in a bar, and I just like the whole process and understand how people put things together. So I'm not against alcohol by any stretch of the imagination. But it does say here that group members report consuming alcohol, their HRV drops by an average of 22 milliseconds the next day, and a cancer pressure heart rate variability for up to 4 to 5 days, which is quite a lot. Really,
think about
quite a lot of change, and
That's
how much time. And like, if you say you drink on a Saturday, you drink every Saturday, 4 to 5 days after that's going to be Wednesday or Thursday. You're only really getting your head out of your shit together again. Then it's Friday, and then it's Saturday, and you're doing it all over again. So, like, you can think about that, the impact that has over time.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of like, when you look at my data, if I had a really bad night, it's impacted me several days afterwards. And again, who's to say, don't go on drinking or things like that. Just drink moderately or responsibly as you're doing it. If health is a big, important piece for you, right? And obviously we're trying to preach a lot of that there, but it's your own choices that make those decisions. And I will still, if I'm going on drinking, still try to keep my macronutrients in check too. So I'm not drinking like insane amounts of really sugary type of drinks and things like that. Or if I am, I'm going to incorporate that into my macros that I'm breaking down. So, and then try to hydrate, really heavily afterwards as well. One thing that I did, because I wasn't feeling well in Vegas, is I went and there was an IV place there, and went and got an IV injection that was a lot of vitamins, had glutathione, which is a powerful antioxidant. So I got one of those while I was there just to feel better too. So things you can do to help augment. And there's actually IV places that will come to your room if you have a hangover to help you out with a hangover remedy. So things you can contemplate if you're drinking too much in Vegas.
I remember the first time being in New York with my dad, and we stayed in the Dublin. They used to have this like the W button was for whatever, whenever. And the two of us were massively hungover, and I pushed it, and I called down for a hangover cure. And about 20 minutes later, somebody knocked the door, and there's these little 2 brown bags, and there was some sort of painkiller, some sort of water, some sort of Gatorade, an apple, and a banana. And I was like, you know what, this is okay. I can get on board with this as a hangover cure. Point number 5 is sleep well and consistently. And this is actually something that I have been trying to stay in tune with since I've been wearing Whoop. Obviously, I get up relatively early, and you can sort of set it. I can't remember offhand. It's like perform, peak, whatever the third one is. I can't remember. Like the low tier one, then it's perform and then peak. So you can sort of set it to what you want to do the following day, what time you want to get up, and it basically tells you what time you want to go to bed at. Now, last night, to get what I needed in terms of sleep, I had to go to bed at 8:30. Still got up at 4:20, but I was able to get 98% efficiency in terms of sleep. And like, until I started until I started monitoring this with Whoop, my sleep was awful in terms of efficiency. Like I would fill every weekend and be like, I'm not getting good sleep. And James would comment on it every single week. So that is definitely something that I have been more in tune with. It says sleep well and consistently. And this comes back to the point about sort of your circadian rhythm and being in that sort of habit. And I know that this is something that people struggle with across the board and whatever else. But for me, how I look at sleep and how I look at, finishing work and setting yourself up for sleep and whatever else is, understand what time you have to get up at and work backwards from that. It's not about, it is, but it's not about what time you have to go to bed at. It's about what time you have to get up at, how many hours sleep that you need. That's what time you need to go to bed at, and start working backwards to that. So if you need to get up at 5 a.m. and you need to go to bed at 10 p.m., then you need to stop work at this time. You need to stop eating at that time, stop drinking at this time or whatever it is, and just sort of work backwards from that and get yourself into that pattern. And I would say for that, like, set yourself rules that you don't go past, because the difference that you can feel in terms of when you have really good quality sleep consecutively in terms of your day and how it can impact things in a positive way is I would say categorically the best thing that you can do for your health and well-being.
The big thing for me on sleep, and this is something that I really appreciate about your program, because you track the data around sleep, right? So as part of Whoop or Aura, whatever you're using for a trackable, you have data inputs there on the sheet to talk about your sleep. And I always appreciated that, during my check-ins, you'd be like, hey, your sleep was totally garbage this week. Let's focus on that, right? Let's home in on your sleep aspects, because you can obviously see, based on the data, sleep bad, HRV bad, recovery's bad. You're not hitting your performance goals of what you want to accomplish. So I think, sleep to me foundationally is probably the number one most important thing to lock down for health and recovery, because it's how our bodies repair themselves. I used to always say, I don't need sleep. I used to go to bed at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 7 or 8 o'clock and drink heavily as part of it. And that was kind of my normal daily routines. And, what the studies are showing here is that sleep has so much impact on our circadian rhythm, about how our bodies operate, repair itself, use things, energy, brain pattern thoughts, like our mental clarity, everything else is all tied to sleep. So, one of the things to lock down for your training is sleep. And that's, when our bodies are repairing itself, when we're recovering, when we're, maybe not necessarily building muscle, but, definitely one of those things where we're recovering in a way to allow us to build muscle. So those are the things that I think, out of all of the pieces here from an HRV perspective, if you're looking at increasing your heart rate variability or having a better heart rate variability metric, sleep is one of those things to knock down. And everybody's different, just like HRV, everybody's different on sleep. I find that for me, about 6.5 to 7 hours, but anywhere between 6 and 7 hours, but 6.5 to 7 hours is kind of my sweet spot. Anything more than that's not great. Anything less than that's not great. And there are studies that too much sleep is not good for you either. So if you're getting, 9 to 10 hours of sleep, that's actually detrimental to you. There's things like Alzheimer's and other things that are linked directly to too much sleep, which is kind of interesting. So too much sleep can be detrimental to your health. Too little sleep can be detrimental to your health. Find that balance there and what your baseline is. And generally that's going to be between 6 to 8 hours for most people of where you find those things at. But anything less than that, anything more than that, typically not going to be great.
Yeah, I definitely find if I oversleep, it's essentially worse. I feel worse if I oversleep. I have like the vibrating alarm of Whoop as well, the way it just wakes you up.
I haven't tried that. I've been meaning to. Do you like it?
Yeah, definitely it is. It's because I definitely have to wake up when I get up then. It is much better. And it's not as like invasive as a loud alarm going off. To So yeah, it's definitely better. The second one
I use this thing called Hatch, which is like I turn the light. So if you have a partner, it's not the greatest for it, because what Hatch does, it's kind of neat, is it starts to wake you up by light. So very subtle light, and then gradually increases as you get closer to that time, and it's natural light as it comes in, which I really like a lot. But then Aaron be like, why the hell is it light in this room at 6 o'clock in the morning? I'm still trying to sleep. So I was like, okay, I can't use this. But it does have like soothing like raindrop sounds that it wakes you up to, and it gradually gets louder. And I use that to wake myself up, and that's been pretty good. But I might try the Whoop.
It is good because it vibrates. It is good. Would highly recommend.
And one thing I also use for better sleep as well, just a tip, is your body typically sleeps better from a REM perspective, getting more REM sleep when your body's a little bit cooler in its natural state. So I use a cooling pad. There's a bunch of ones out there. There's like the Chili Pad, 8 Sleep. If 8 Sleep made my size of my bed, because my bed's split into 2 halves, so I can like once I can be raised or not. Aaron can like raise her aside and watch upward, and I don't have to, or vice versa. So they don't make a twin or a twin full. They only make like regular size ones. But 8 Sleep is probably my favorite from because it actually has all of the heart rate variability metrics, sleeping data metrics. It has like a whole bunch of new sensors. They just came with, I think, a new version 3. It looks really nice. But it what's nice about these pads is that you can program it for your sleep cycle. So let's just say you go to bed normally at like 10 o'clock. I usually keep my bed a little bit warm so that when I get in, I'm nice and warm and things like that. And then, around 11 o'clock, it starts to dip in temperature. And by the time I hit like, midnight, it's at a low temperature where I'm deep sleeping. My body is able to, stay at a cooler state, and I have better REM there. And then as I start to wake up, like around, let's just say 5 o'clock, it starts to increase the temperature again. And I naturally almost always wake up, at the time I'm supposed to, without the alarm actually going off, because my bed is increasing its temperature. It starts to get warmer. I'm becoming less and less out of my major sleep, and I'm actually more awake as I come along. So I found that type of programming and scheduling is really nice to be able to say, hey, start off a little bit warm, get a little bit cooler at night. Now, there are times where it's like super cold out and I wake up in the middle of the night, like I'm cold as hell and I got to turn it up, but that's not always that often. So, but it does a great job with those. I like that.
Yeah, that's cool that you can set it to sort of start to raise the temperature whenever you're due to be waking up. That is very cool.
They have this one setting, which is like, put it on high to actually wake you up, and I'll be like dripping. And so I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, this sucks. So I don't use that setting. I don't recommend that setting, because I've done
someone's fucking with you, like adjusting your temperatures.
Yeah. I wake up, I'm like dripping in sweat, like 900 degrees. And I'm like, this sucks. I need to get out of here. It worked, but I don't enjoy waking up to abrupt pile of sweat. So I don't use that setting, but I gradually go up there.
Number 6 is natural light exposure. And again, this is something that I have obviously
I'm
in the
terrible at this.
Yeah, and a lot of people are, and for a lot of different reasons. The number one reason is obviously this time of year, it's always dark. Like whenever you leave in the morning, it's dark. Whenever you come home, it's dark generally. The second reason that a lot of people struggle with this is because of work scheduling. And again, I'll admit, like, I'm not the best at this, because even whenever I get up and I go out in the morning for my walk, it's dark because it's fucking 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm not getting any natural light exposure first thing. And obviously Andrew Huberman says you want to get natural light in the morning whenever you wake up, and you also want to get some sort of sunset light as well. And I do not get either of those things. I will get some whenever I go out, like I'll go out for a walk at some point throughout the day, and I will get some sort of natural light exposure, but obviously the benefits of it, and it does not count. Somebody actually, I literally just replied within the chat there, someone posted they sit beside a window. I'm like, I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's not the same as actually being outside. But yeah, it helps improve alertness, mood, and vitamin D production.
They do have the mood lamps.
I have one here, side lamp.
Yeah. So I have one as well.
The other day, did I pull this up? Have we talked about this?
No, I have. Well, we talked about it. I bought one a long time ago, and I used it during COVID because like everybody's like so depressed because they're not outside in the sun. I'm like, I need this when I'm working, so I just like kept the light on. But like, I never ended up like religiously using it. I've been thinking about maybe putting it into my bedroom, or not my bedroom, my bathroom, for when I'm getting ready in the morning. I can pop that on and then have the light actually hit me. And that way, that's the only thing I can think of the time I'd use it, because when I wake up, it's usually early in the morning, so I can get either my workout routine done or something else. It's super dark outside, so I don't get that exposure to natural light. And if you listen to the, Human Labs podcast, Andrew talks about how that is one of his most important things that he does as far as a ritual. And it has a prolific impact on our circadian rhythm, as well as our alertness and awareness. And he says that it's 10 times better than taking coffee in the morning, to basically let your body know, hey, it's time to start production. Your circadian rhythm's kicking off. It's natural light. It's hitting you. You're starting the day. You start producing dopamine and a bunch of other things to get your body, rolling through the day itself. So, it's your own body's way of starting to gear itself up for the day. And it has been shown to have a substantial cut in how long it takes you to wake up, but also how well you perform throughout the day.
Yeah, I find this when I was clearing something out the other day, and I have started using it in the morning. I just think it's so unfortunate that it's called a sad lamp. It's a terrible name for an actual product, but yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's a terrible name. But yes, I would highly recommend. The next one is your favorite one, your favorite of them all, cold thermogenesis, exposing your body to cold temperature for brief periods of time, cold showers and ice baths.
Wait, I think I have
your vagus nerve. Stop interrupting me. Which activates the parasympathetic branch of your autonomic nervous system. But essentially, this breaks it right down. If we cover it, it breaks it right down to self-inflicted acute stress. So actively putting your body into that parasympathetic branch of your autonomic system is going to be beneficial for you. I'm a big fan. You're not a big fan. Whatever. We don't have to agree on everything, but I would highly recommend having some sort of cold water therapy somewhere along the line.
Well, and I've actually done a lot of research on this, and I
still not interested in doing it, but I've done a lot of research.
I've done a ton of research on this because I'm interested. I'm just not interested in doing it. Okay. Now I will say I asked for Christmas a cold plunge.
Nice.
I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get it because it requires redoing our bathroom, and my wife just hates change, like in general. So like our house has to stay the same.
You can put one outside.
Outside in Cleveland, Ohio, when it's negative,
Proper
15
cold.
out with snow and wind chill. No, thank you. Listen. For me to even contemplate going into a cold plunge, it's got to be under my, specifications, and that would be replacing the bathtub. So, replace the bathtub with a cold plunge because you can do both hot and cold on it. So it's like a normal bathtub too, but it regulates the temperature and stuff like that. But here's the thing. No one here uses the bathtub ever. Like we've used it like 2 times in the past 5 years, so like, it's just, there's no reason to have it. So get the cold plunge and I'll actually use it. Probably, maybe.
So you asked for something that you knew you weren't going to get because essentially you didn't really want it.
Well, there's 2 things I asked for, which are really cool. So one of them is a steamer for the shower. So it's a sauna steamer, and it shoots steam into the air, and it increases the temperature substantially. So you're actually getting a sauna effect with steam, in which, so if you look at all the studies on saunas and recovery, it's all been done with steam showers, steam saunas versus infrared. The data is still loose on the infrared side. I have an infrared sauna. It's amazing. I attest to its recovery aspects. I feel great with it. It does a lot of benefits, like increases your natural production of human growth hormone, or IGF-1 production substantially, especially if you do more than like 3 or 4 times a week. Recovery is really good with it. It also is a amazing cardiovascular type of exercise. If you're in a hot sauna for more than like 10 to 15 minutes, you'll actually see your heart rate shoot up substantially, and you burn a substantial amount of calories while you're inside of a sauna as well. So there's a lot of amazing health benefits to saunas. Now, here's the thing about cold plunges or cold treatment in general. You have to be very, 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 very careful of when you do it, because it does have a direct impact on muscle hypertrophy. So if you go and do a lift, doing a sauna afterwards is okay. It's great. If you go and do a lift and you do a cold plunge right afterwards, that is very bad. When I say very bad, it's not bad for you, but it's going to reduce the inflammation for what you just did. And it's going to cut your gains in half, if not more. There's a lot of science that shows that doing cold plunges or cold treatment right after an exercise or workout has a substantial reduction in your ability to put on muscle mass afterwards, or lean body mass. So you need to be very careful. So usually they say 6 to 8 hours after, or do it before you actually do your resistance training or workouts. Same thing for cardiovascular. I would wait, 4 to 5 to 6 hours, after doing a cardiovascular work before I actually go into a cold plunge. So if I was going to do it, they typically say the first thing in the morning is the best because you're hitting that inflammation, you're reducing your body, but it also puts your body into a crazy alert mode. It wakes you up and you're in an alert mode because you're basically going through hypothermia at this point in time or close to it. So your body is in like a fight or flight, very, very similar to a sauna too. So you're going to be aware, you're going to be alert, and it's going to start off the morning really good. So if I were to do it, probably in the morning prior to any type of resistance training, cardiovascular work, or 6 to 8 hours afterwards, maybe before I go to bed, reduce your temperature. I think Huberman said he does his at night. Prior to him going to bed, he'll take a cold shower, do a cold plunge or something like that. Also, one last thing to hit on the sauna side is that when you're in a sauna, it actually releases a hormone that is an appetite suppressant while you're in there. So if you're interested in the benefits of sauna too, and I never knew the reason for this, Huberman actually posted on this. I never knew the reason why when I get out of a sauna, I was never hungry. Like I just didn't want to eat anything. Like even it was like, cause I usually do my sauna after I lift. And after I lift, I'm usually starving or I need to do my post-workout meal. I'm like, man, I don't even feel like my protein shake right now. So interesting enough, sauna has some appetite suppressant components to it as well, based on the hormones that we release while we're in there. So really good benefits on both sides. Cold plunges can definitely impact HRV from the positive side. I obviously
just not interested in it.
Like I said, if I happen to get it for like Christmas and it's a gift, I feel like that's like I have to use it then, or else like Aaron's gonna be really pissed at me that I didn't use it. So like this is my like call for help to say like you have to do it, and then I'll just go and do it. But if I don't get it, I'm not going to do it. So
every morning you're like, oh yes, I love the gift that you got me, the cool plunge. I can't wait to use it every single day.
Exactly.
Number 8 is intentional breathing. Obviously, we've had Sean on before. The breathwork stuff he does is absolutely stunning, and it's actually being able to be in control of your breath. And again, this is a point that they brought up on the podcast with Will, the founder of Whoop. Being able to do that and be able to be in control of your breath is a massively important one. And I actually just loaded like 16 videos from Sean into the mainframe for all the clients to go through in terms of how to use your breath in different circumstances and situations. And actually a tag along of that of number 9 and actually number 10 to give Sean the full credit here is mindfulness meditation and gratitude journaling. So if anybody has heard us talk about Sean and the 555 Club, it is essentially 5 minutes breath work, 5 minutes meditation, and 5 minutes journaling. So he covers all 3 of those in 15-minute slots, 5 times a day, 5 days a week.
Say the breathing exercises, and we talked about this before on the podcast. I was like, Ben, I believe in everything you do, but this is a little far stretch. Like I'm like, and then
you've lost it. You've gone too far. You're going to
I've gone too far. I was like, what am I gonna do? Ayahuasca journeys next and stuff like that. Like I'm out of this. Okay, but then I was like, I'm just gonna entertain it, just to be nice. And it was actually one of the best experiences it's amazing, what we can control in our bodies and how our mind and our bodies play such a synergistic role between one another. The breathing exercises that we went through and the breathing journeys that we went through were intense at times, relaxing at times. It just, did a really great job. And Sean did amazing with all that stuff. I mean, it was something that I never experienced before. I try to do this more often now, albeit I don't do it as much as I should, but it's definitely something that I really try to incorporate into my routines because I do notice it has a major impact on my breathing, my alertness, being calm, a lot of other things. And especially if I'm having a really stressful day, a breathing exercise or a breathing journey will do wonders for me to reduce that stress. And Sean really is a master at, his voice is so soothing as you're going through it. And it's just like second nature. It was really cool. I have a lot of good feedback with that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it is something that I wish that I did more of, and I probably should and could. But the videos that I've uploaded and the 555 and what Sean offers, and just be able to offer that in terms of like for anybody who is within either client group, I have noticed the benefits that they're feeling and how important it is to them to just sort of use that 15 minutes to sort of check in with themselves. And genuinely, like until I pulled this up last week, I didn't know that any of this was part of improving heart rate variability and improving recovery. These are just things that I have done over time, things that I have found benefit in myself, and things that I've sort of built out in terms of like a program and how we can sort of look at everybody's health and well-being on a sort of holistic approach. So it was kind of a thumbs up, doing a good job, everything's moving in the right direction moment.
Yeah,
last week.
It's funny because, when I first started training with you, there's a lot of things that you had preached really early on, around calories in versus calories out, macronutrient breakdowns, muscle hypertrophy, tempo being how you do time under tension,
which everybody hates. And it seems to be all the chat on Twitter, and everybody fucking hates it.
But it's funny because like an HRV is a great example in what you're doing for tracking. So it's interesting. Like all of this stuff continues to be 100% validated by the science as well as new research coming out. So it's been good to see all the kind of the validations of everything that you've taught me and instilled in that program are all things that are being backed now by research and science that are coming out showing that this stuff is effective. Like the muscle hypertrophy component of it. There was a study that came out recently, which again, I get so pissed at the headlines that come out because they're so misleading on what actually it is. So one of the headlines was, hey, you no longer need to actually pick up weight. You just need to put it down to gain muscle mass. I'm like, okay, this is the dumbest headline I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm like, oh. And then people are going to read that and be like, oh, cool. I'm just going to pick something up or put it down and that's it. I'm good. I'm all set. I'm good for my workout. And it's even said something in there like, you can cut your workout times in half now. I'm like, oh, for crying out loud. Okay. Let's talk about this. But, but your tempo stuff that you taught me, I think it was like day one when I started the training programs, and why you focused on it was, time under tension. And, when we're going up and we're doing some sort of explosive movement, we're typically hitting those fast twitch fibers, the ones that are going to be used for strength and for power. And that's how those muscles work. Now, when you're talking about endurance or size of muscles or short twitch fibers, your ability to gain more muscle mass, it's, time under tension that becomes the most important in those specific cases. So, if you think about how you're supposed to lift, usually a tempo is going to be something where it's an explosive movement up. So if I'm doing bicep curls, I'm going to explode up with power, and then I'm going to go down very controlled time-wise, let's just say 3 or 4 or 5 seconds on the way down. So real controlled movement downward, explosive up. Now you start to do those, and it's funny because in my head, every time I do these, I'm always trying to get the most amount of volume and weight. And I start to, let's just say I'm trying to get to a 12 rep range. In my mind, when I start getting to 6, I'm like, oh shit, I should have went down like, then I start to rush it.
This was too much.
Down. Oh, down. I'm not doing it right. I'm like, okay, I got to go down and wait. All right. Okay. Stop being that guy, Dave, and focus on it. But I mean, tempo really messes with you because your time that you're actually lifting is quadrupled, if not more, because you're focusing on that downward movement, that eccentric movement as you're going through down. So it's cool to see the validation of it. And that's what the study said. Study said, hey, your downward movement, your eccentric movement is what actually builds the most amount of size, from a muscle perspective to put on lean body mass, because it's how our muscles are typically working on these short twitch versus fast twitch fibers. But same thing with this too. You look at HRV, the first thing you hit on before we were tracking HRV, well, I think you were tracking HRV too, but was, sleep, hit, less alcohol. And you'd hit those on those calls too. When we have the Wednesday meeting calls, everybody like, oh, I had a lot of drinking. Like, guys, if you want to take this seriously, cut the drinking back a bit, start focusing on this stuff here if you want to do that. So, I mean, all those things are, validated by science, and it's cool that we have the tools available today to actually monitor our progress and how we're doing. Whereas, 10 or 15 years ago, we never had the ability to have a glimpse into this. And that's what makes me excited about the advancement in wearable technology. We're getting more and more advanced with how we can monitor your body. So we're actually coming out now, I think it's either going to be next year or the year after, with the ability to do active blood pressure monitoring within wearables. Nice. So, the ability to actually say, hey, my blood pressure is this at a given time throughout the day, and be able to benchmark those, throughout the day versus having to put like a strap on you. So really cool technology that continues to progress around our bodies. And, I think, implantables, things like that can, tell us like blood glucose levels and stuff. Like you see, like there's a patch you can wear. I think you've done it before, Ben.
Yeah.
Where it tells you your blood glucose levels throughout the day. So you know when it's spiking and not. There's a lot of really great stuff out there and data we can use to really help us make determinations on the best approach for our longevity, our health, our recovery, HRV, everything else that we're doing out there. So more data, the better.
Agree. And I think that's definitely a start point in terms of recovery. Obviously, this is a deep rabbit hole that we continue to go down, but from a start point, I think that the topics or the points that we covered and that we've covered as well to sort of back it up have been good. I just can't believe how much water everybody's going to have to drink. But anyway, thanks everybody for listening.
That was a good week. And we're going to be recording again in 2 days again, right? So
yes.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Good. I really appreciate everybody listening to us this week. Sorry for the raspiness in the voice. I don't think I coughed once.
No, you didn't. You made it.
Yeah, I muted every time I cough. So, but hopefully I'm feeling a little bit better on Wednesday. I'm definitely trying to recover and getting a lot of sleep. My recovery today was actually the best it's been in a week. So I think it was like 82% today. So I'm taking it easy, although I'm drinking my pre-workout right now. I'm about to go get my lift in. It's push day, so I definitely can't skip that.
Cannot skip that.
So
Definitely
cannot
not.
skip push day. Oh, and I did the bands thing, by the way. I got to send you a picture, make sure I did it right.
Okay.
With the clips in the band, so as it comes down, yep. So the carabiners. So I'll just send you those over. But anyways, side tangent there. But thank you all for listening to Hacking Your Health this week, and hope you have a great week of motivation, success, progress, gains, and making those small strides and steps. 1% better today equates to a massive amount of percentages down the road, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. That's what you should be accomplishing: small steps, small changes that make a big difference. But please share us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Use the hashtag on Twitter, WeHackHealth. A lot of, I'll tell you, the activity there's been amazing. A lot of great folks sharing good stuff. So it's been awesome to see this movement continue to transpire. But tune in again next week, same time, same place, and we'll catch you later.
See you next week.
Later.